Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dental Trade Alliance podcast. My name is Kevin Henry. I'm the editor-in-chief for Dr. Bicuspid, and I'm also thrilled to be the host of this podcast. And I'm on today with the team from Polsinelli, and we're going to be talking about some current events that are going on in Washington. We are recording this on February 29th, so please take that time frame in mind, as depending on when you hear this, some things may have changed. But Chris, I know you are part of the team at Polsinelli. What is Polsinelli, and does it have a relationship with the Dental Trade Alliance?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Polsinelli is a national law firm, and we are based in our Washington, D.C. office. And our role for DTA is to serve as government relations consultants. So we do, obviously, any sort of lobbying and or regulatory and legislative monitoring, and work closely with the Legislative Council for DTA to advocate for DTA and its members before Congress and regulatory agencies.
Well, I'm thrilled to have the three of you on today, and certainly we got a couple of hot topics to talk about today, again, very timely. And I want to start with continuing resolution. And what is this? What do dental team members, dentists, and the dental industry need to know about what's going on with CR in Washington?
Sure. I'll start this off. So Congress has failed to pass any appropriations bills for this new fiscal year, and has been operating under a continuing resolution, or a CR, which funds the government under last year's funding levels, just in order to keep the government running. So it is a short-term funding mechanism, since they haven't passed overall appropriations. And currently, they, as of the date we're doing the podcast, are operating under continuing resolutions, two of them actually, one which will expire on March 1st, and one which will expire on March 8th. The March 1st date is important to DTA members because included in there is the Ag Appropriations Bills, which also funds the FDA. So theoretically, if Congress hasn't acted before that March 1st deadline, there will be a shutdown at the FDA. But we are hearing that there will be another continuing resolution that will extend funding. So it seems very unlikely that FDA will shut down as of March 1st. But they are pushing out probably towards the end of March, at least another short-term CR, and then hopefully we'll have a longer-term funding package after that. So in the short term, I think we'll be okay, but this isn't a long-term solution, not quite yet, but they're getting closer.
And I just want to connect the dots here, because obviously if the FDA is shut down, that means that dental products that might be in the pipeline or any new inventions, innovations may be slowed down in that process as well. Is that correct?
That is exactly right. So essentially, FDA employees are furloughed during that time if there's a shutdown, which means all pending business before the FDA is put on hold. Now, they always do maintain sort of essential personnel, most agencies, during that time, but essentially it is just a long-term delay while those employees are furloughed with getting drugs and devices reviewed during that time. So essentially puts a hold on the entire process.
And again, we're on the Dental Trade Alliance podcast today, talking with the team from Polsinelli about some of the current issues that are going on in Washington, D.C. And I'll throw out this question to the three of you, and whoever wants to answer, please feel free. We always hear about the government shutdown. We always hear about what could happen, and obviously FDA would be a part of that. But I'm curious, what other things might impact dentists, dental team members, and anyone in the industry who might be listening to this? Why should they have a very keen eye and ear on what's going on with a potential shutdown?
I can jump in. I think that you're looking at two tranches, the 8th and then I believe the 28th at the end of the month. So, and as Chris said, with the Department of Health and Human Services, FDA and Ag are part of that first tranche. But if it slips to the end of March, now you're looking at a total federal government shutdown. So that would have real repercussions across the board, certainly, beyond even FDA. So it's become the new normal, though, as Chris mentioned also. About 20 years ago, you could get the appropriations process, the 12 bills, and predict like clockwork, rather, when each of those bills would be taken up and addressed. And today, we've gotten into this series of kick the can, continuing resolutions, flat funding. So I don't think it will get to the end of March, but it seems to be a game of chicken, particularly as we get closer in this election cycle. So everything is politicized as we move forward right now.
I know one thing that is coming up will be the State of the Union address. And is there anything that you all are listening for in the State of the Union address, and maybe our listeners in the dental industry should be listening for as well?
I can take the first half of that one. This is Claire. I think what we're talking about today, these funding bills are probably going to be top line, especially given the implications they have with both Ukraine and Israel funding, which are kind of what's been holding one of the components that's been holding appropriation bills up, and which I would also throw the border security, the border wall and border security into that discussion. Both sides have kind of been using those issues as bargaining chips. So I think that those will definitely be top line issues for President Biden.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd be also interested to hear if he might mention anything about tax reform. There is, at least on paper, a bipartisan agreement and bicameral agreement between the House and Senate to move forward on some both personal tax relief and or business tax relief. And a lot of this is extending existing provisions that will expire at the end of the year. We won't go into all of them here. Maybe we can do a separate podcast on that. But, Congress is on board with some of those reforms, but we haven't heard much from the administration on their take. So I'd be interested to see if tax reform perhaps comes up. I know the business community is watching that tax package very closely.
I imagine just healthcare in general also will be a huge topic. It usually is in the State of the Union. So we'll be interested to see what President Biden touches on. I doubt he'll mention medical dental integration for this one, but we'll be definitely talking about things around that, and certainly Medicare, Medicaid issues.
And then I'll throw out one more 30,000-foot view question, if that's all right. I know we've covered a lot in a very short amount of time here, but is there anything else coming up in early March, mid-March that maybe our dental industry should be aware of, or again, be leaning on Dental Trade Alliance to keep them informed about?
Well, I would mention that springtime in DC brings Hill Days. And groups who are advocating for particular priorities. And I know that most of the provider communities within dental, at least 4 or 5 of them that I'm aware of, have their upcoming Hill Days in March and April. So it's always nice to know what they're up on the Hill advocating for. And so certainly we have a good relationship with the provider groups to touch base and see the issues that they're advocating for. So that's something to watch here in the next couple weeks and or month.
Great. Well, I thank the three of you for your time. I know that there was a 30,000-foot view, but I also know you all are keeping a very close eye on things and helping Dental Trade Alliance members know what is coming and what they need to be aware of. So thank you all so much for that.
Kevin, if I could just mention one last thing, 9th and 11th. Yeah, since we're discussing fly-ins, the Dental Trade Alliance, April 9th through 11th in Washington, D.C. is having their Washington policy. So we'll be very active, meeting with legislators, regulators, and just really having a good group, on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, the April 9th through 11th timeline there in Washington, D.C., I know will be very important for the dental industry and a great chance for Dental Trade Alliance to get a hands-on look at what is going on there inside the Capitol. So thank you all for your time and your expertise. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
And thanks to all of you who listened to this episode of the Dental Trade Alliance podcast. And we will be back soon with another episode.